another mini vlogging visit to Trethurgy Lakes. Just a little small ice covered pond with a leaning tree which I'm going to take a picture of and set up with HP5 Fuji 125 lens f32. I'm going to do half a second and 1 second, and I've got a tiny bit of front tilt to try and keep that leaning tree in focus. I hope this works out, but it's all experimental and it is freezing here. As you can see, ice on the lake, freezing cold wind. It's not very pleasant, so I'll get on with it and see what comes out at the other end. Okay, so here's my next setup. Again, it's just a simple picture of this mossy tree, gnarled, with low hanging branches, a little bit of snow just on its base, a little bit of a pond or puddle beyond with other leaning trees in the distance. No tilt this time, it's just going to be straightforward, and it's probably the same exposure, but I'll re-meter with the Pentax spot meter just to check, and I take a low and a high metering, and then I'm going to average out the two. Okay, so I've focused to compose the Intrepid, and oh, I've got a little friend here who's come to meet me. Yes, thinks I've got something for him. Bonus wildlife blog. Sadly, I haven't. And if I'm lucky, he might pose. Okay, so back to the photography, and let's get focus again. So half a second f32 and then another exposure 1 second f32 for safety's sake. Intrepid 4x5 HP5 again, Fuji 125 lens, cable release, no filters, light is quite diffused, just going to rely on the detail and the shapes of the subject, which is this gnarled tree again. Okay, let's give it a go. So before we go, we've got the shutter cocked, we've got the lever closing the iris, so it's ready to go. What I need to do now is load the dark slide, which I can't do with this phone camera because it takes two hands. So bye for now. Okay, so user error time. That last exposure, the first exposure, sorry, was at 1/8 of a second, because that's when I'd originally set the camera up and I failed to check. So the golden rule with 4x5 is check, check and check again. So on reflection, I've gone for a half second at f32, so probably one of those is going to be an underexposed. But let's see what comes out when we do the developing. I've got my new SP445 developing tank, which hopefully should lead to less errors than the Mod 54, because that was getting rather despondency making, pulling the film out and finding some had come adrift during the developing process. So it's a cold day, get home, nice hot cup of tea, possibly something nice to go with it, and hopefully get that film developed quite soon. There's loads of picture opportunities here. Just a great little spot. It does get rather busy in summer, but it's just an old quarry or series of quarries with pools, gnarled trees, moss. Just a great spot for hanging some photography, and fortunately we're sheltered from the worst of the winds because it is brutal out there. Okay, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye for now. Hi. Okay, all set up for developing with the Stearman Press SP445. From left to right, you have developer, stop bath, fixer, 3 washes, and photo flow for final wash. Tank is ready to load. Massive dev chart says 11 minutes at 1+50. Unfortunately, due to a slight mix-up, I've actually mixed it up for 500, so I'm going to cut the development time to 10 minutes, and I hope that will be okay. So there's a little bit of mix and match. Okay, let's get to it, see what the final results is. Can you see the temperature? Smack on 20 degrees there for everything, so that at least is consistent. Right, see you in a bit. Okay, we're all done now, developed, and it looks like we've got 4 decent negatives. Certainly no apparent and visible damage. There of course may be dust, hairs, spots, etc. on them, but in terms of developing process, things seem to have gone okay, and the negatives look alright. Okay. And now one further point, it may be difficult to see this, but can you see there are some dark specks in places in the, this is the developer and the stop bath, not so much in the fixer. I'm guessing this is probably bits of casting, is it? Oh, mould, scurf from the build process. I guess I should have washed before I used it, but on the other hand, perhaps that's something they should have done in the manufacturing process. Okay, more on that in another vlog when I summarise my experience of working with the SP445. That trips off the tongue, doesn't it? 445. Now it's clean-up time. So lots of pots to wash, dry, chemicals to put back into their containers. I shall get some filters out and try and get rid of these black specks, because obviously they potentially could damage the film if used again. Obviously won't be reusing the developer. That's well done. Okay, so right, time to clear up and let the film dry and then possibly scan later. Hooray! So my thoughts on the final images are that I'm reasonably happy. The twisted tree, the front tilt has worked pretty well actually, and you can see that it has by that branch to the left in the middle of the left-hand fork that sticks up is actually out of focus. The contrast edit just adds a little bit more. That doesn't really mean notice, but there's a little bit of a cropping error in there, but it's fixable quite easily. Again, the only downside really is the background's pretty messy, but otherwise it's pretty sharp all through. Love the frosted water. Second tree is just a sort of study in texture really. It's possibly it needs a bit more direct light to pick out the trunk. It was difficult to keep the white snow from losing texture, so that would be something I'd perhaps try and pull the development time to allow a little bit less contrast. Quite happy with the detail, the sharpness. The film HP5 is a good one, so yeah, generally happy. Always room for improvement. Thanks for watching this video, and see you in the next one.